What did the life of an ordinary person look like in the 17th century? One cannot ignore the fact that during that time, every individual belonged to one of several social classes, and the lives of people from different classes was extremely different. The lifestyles of peasants, merchants, artisans, clergy, and nobles differed not only due to financial reasons. For instance, when it came to clothing, there were strict laws in many places across Europe, including Sweden. A high-class gentleman could not possibly wear the same attire as a merchant. Interestingly, the oldest picture in Estonia depicting a student portrays a young man in overly elaborate clothing. This is a hat that was fashionable at the time, likely in the early part of the 17th century. From the 1680s onwards, these kinds of triangular hats came into fashion. But why? This was because of another thing that was important in fashion: wigs. Wigs were expensive and people wanted to show them off, so they attached the corners of their hats up like so people could see their expensive wigs. Another interesting piece of headwear is the beret, which are even used today. Also, these sorts of frilly collars are interesting. Collars were a separate clothing item in the 17th century and got bigger and bigger as time went on. It was a sort of symbol of the high class, because such an item of clothing couldn't possibly be practical. You cannot do physical labor in this, but it did function as a sort of bib. This is what a student's coat could have been like. A cape of sorts. Different styles of overclothes were popular in the 17th century, but this kind of cloak was used due to its buttons. If it was cold or rainy, the buttons could be closed, but if you wished, you can open them and create a sort of sleeve. Perhaps the most pervasive daily activity was eating. Every farmer ate what they grew on their land. This made the daily food choice monotonous, as mostly boiled flour or gruel was consumed. Old Estonian cuisine also included sour milk, sauerkraut, salted fish, turnips, pea soup, and bread. Meat dishes were more of a festive treat for rural folks, and potatoes were completely absent until the mid-18th century. Similar to the Middle Ages, salt was of great importance both as a trade commodity and as a food preservative, as it helped extend the shelf life of food while adding flavor. In cities with active foreign trade, citizens enjoyed a more diverse diet for that time. One could even find exotic spices, wine, and imported fruits. Here are some spices that were used during that time: cinnamon, thyme, cloves, pepper, and cumin.